instead of us coming in and saying, this is what you should do, it's a very collaborative dialogue, and it's more of a city, municipality, group of stakeholders saying, we have a problem, and we have a problem from point A to point B. And it's typically everybody, even if stakeholders aren't talking, if you got them around the table, they would say, yes, that's the problem. It's from here to there. And so it's a very easy solution. And so what SNAAP Transportation does is we license our system. It's the pods, it's the Ribbonway, and it's the software. It's relatively easy. And we've created this system to be easy, to be scalable, and to be available anywhere in the world.
Welcome to the Smart Cities Council podcast. Smart Cities Council is an international organization aiming to create a safer, more beautiful, enabled, and resilient future for everyone, with more than 400,000 members and collaborators across the globe. Today, I welcome Andrew Cary to the podcast, who is the CEO and co-founder of SNAAP Transportation. Andrew Cary has nearly 40 years working in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. He served as a multilingual public educator and senior officer, an executive director and board member of multiple nonprofits, and as an edtech leader, business developer, and go-to-market global strategist. Now, as co-founder and CEO of SNAAP Transportation, Andrew leverages his decades of entrepreneurial tenacity, innovation, and business acumen to bring this sustainable alternative to personal transportation to the global market. Andrew has helped numerous education, edtech startups, and large companies go to market and grow share of wallet to exit. He has successfully managed the layers of relationships across organizations, channels, partners, and markets. He maintains deep and lasting relationships in LatAm, Greater Europe, and the APAC. Presently, through his corporate business line, Future Education Options and Cary Enterprises LLC, Andrew serves in strategic leadership, advisory, and direct engagements for global partners, ministries, and departments of education, and a variety of other private and public sector service providers. Additionally, he serves as an advisor and coach for the Chambers of Commerce started in New York, Sykes Business School, Lowth Entrepreneur Center, and numerous startups. He maintains offices in the US and Sao Paulo and looks to expand to Dubai in 2025. He is unconventional, passionate, and unrelenting in his commitments to follow through and focus on his mission. He is branded #Rise and Execute. Andrew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Fanny. I appreciate that. I look forward to the dialogue today. And as you read all that, I thought, who are you describing? Thank you very much for the introduction.
And we are happy to have you here. And let's jump right in. What does smart city mean to you?
First of all, I want to thank you and certainly thank Smart Cities for the invitation. I followed Smart Cities for quite a long time. I have certainly befriended Corey Gray and the team, which has been a delight, and spent some time with him in the Middle East during the kickoff for the Middle East and North Africa. And that was just a treasured time. What I would say smart cities, or what does smart city mean? It's maybe city. Sometimes I define it a little bit differently. But whether it's a city, a municipality, or kind of a jurisdictional area, it's really where elected officials, business leaders, stakeholders, thought leaders come together and work together, not in opposition, but really collaborate to create an environment, policies, and practices that will create a healthy, a sustainable environment, and so city or whatever that is, for sustainable growth for all people. And that's a really important piece, that it is for all people groups. So I'd probably say that would cover a pretty good definition for me.
I would love to understand, and the audience to understand, your area of expertise. So what does personal rapid transit system mean? And what are you guys doing, SNAAP Transportation?
Sure. And I'm glad you didn't ask about the public education or the nonprofit work. although it does actually feed and has informed a lot of the work that we do at SNAAP Transportation. Maybe a follow-up interview or some other time working with Smart Cities Council. First of all, personal rapid transit has been around for decades, but if some people listen to this, they'll either call us funny, or in English or American English, they would call us the laughing stock. If 50 years ago, people would just laugh personal rapid transit off as not practical and so forth. Today, some of the same people would call us purists. And so the way we define it, and since I actually don't come from a transportation background, personal rapid transit in our way that we define it, the way we use it, the way we characterize ourselves at SNAAP, is that we focus on the issues that are around single occupant vehicles. And so when we go from personal rapid transit, we focus on the word personal. And so if you think about it that way, and you think about single occupant vehicles, or that is what causes a lot of problems, then you now move from PRT, personal rapid transit, into SNAAP transportation. And SNAAP stands for, and it's not SNAP, it's SNAAP, SNAAP. So that's sustainable, nonstop, autonomous, affordable, and personal. And so if we had a catchy marketing phrase, it would be your ride is here in a SNAAP. And if you see behind me, it's connecting people, places, and things. And you see that pod, which we see as a little bit more practical than little scooters on the ground, because I am certainly a little bit older and slightly more fragile than some of the younger people that may be riding on little scooters. And so what we have done is taken personal rapid transit as our focus, and that our mission at SNAAP Transportation is to help alleviate the problems that are caused by the 80% or the preponderance of the 80% single occupant vehicles on roads throughout the world. Now, there's a number of issues, but mostly you can say traffic congestion. And if you're in Miami, you're in Delhi, you're in Dubai Harbor, it doesn't matter. You can say 80% single occupant vehicles within a constricted chokehold area. Single occupant vehicles are the problem. But then you can also talk about congestion, environmental degradation, lack of sustainable infrastructure as this combination. And so what we have done at SNAAP Transportation is we focus on a solution for that. And so the SNAAP Transportation ecosystem are single occupant pods, dual occupant, ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act, or in the Emirates States would be people of determination, and then cargo. And so our pods operate on a dedicated ribbon rail, or Ribbonway as we call it. It's dedicated, so it's autonomous. Nobody's coming left or right or crossing our path. 16 feet above the ground, our pods are battery powered and solar charged. So it's a sustainable and scalable system. And they go from point A to point B. And that, in very brief, is our system. And again, we focus on personal rapid transit, single occupant, and dual. They can platoon, so you can actually have bigger groups go. But a lot of the data shows that this public transportation and what the governments spend all their time and energy and money on, that's what they've been doing. Whether they've done a great job or not such a great job, they have been doing that for quite a long time. But what we focus on is, I'll say, micro-mobility interventions. You can't keep building mass transits. And if you took a scalpel and had to do intervention surgery or intervention transportation, we don't need that wide of space to install SNAAP Transportation to help people get from point A to point B in a Miami or a Dubai, in really small areas that can help alleviate these chokeholds. Sorry for the elaborate explanation, but it'll probably tease out some more questions that people would be curious to find out, and the applications really throughout the world.
And let's clear this out at the beginning, and then we will get back to the details you were talking about. How is SNAAP Transportation connected to smart cities. Why is SNAAP Transportation important for the smart city idea you were talking about, this collaboration of stakeholders for a better environment?
Yeah, it's really exciting, actually. First of all, we created an ecosystem. And one of the advantages of that is that instead of SNAAP Transportation coming into really any city, and I'll say, by the way, we've got quite a number already asking for it. We can certainly make our information available. Instead of us coming in and saying, this is what you should do, it's a very collaborative dialogue, and it's more of a city, municipality, group of stakeholders saying, we have a problem, and we have a problem from point A to point B. And it's typically everybody, even if stakeholders aren't talking, if you got them around the table, they would say, yes, that's the problem. It's from here to there. And so it's a very easy solution. And so what SNAAP Transportation does is we license our system. It's the pods, it's the Ribbonway, and it's the software. It's relatively easy. And we've created this system to be easy, to be scalable, and to be available anywhere in the world. So that's first. The second part of it is that philosophically, we are a job creating company, which is also great for cities. And again, this is going to take a little bit of explanation, but we call it micro manufacturing, mini franchising, and that's not really, you call it mini licensing, and then micro distribution. And there's been a coined phrase, and I wish I had originated it, but it would be, what do you do with a dead shopping mall? You create a SNAAP Transportation manufacturing and assembly plant. And you can pretty much bet between an international or regional airport and downtown, you're going to find a building that could serve as an A to B, high traffic pattern between an airport and downtown, and you can also find a manufacturing location. And so what we say to a local, and you could literally pick anywhere in the world, say that becomes a SNAAP Transportation ecosystem beginning point. And so now you're job creating. And so we say to that location, do you have the capacities for steel manufacturing? Do you have capacities for the various components of SNAAP? If you don't, we will help you with those. But if you do, then you are standing up SNAAP on your own. A lot of people in the software world could say, can you white label it? Absolutely, knock yourselves out. We want this to be as close to the local economy as possible, anywhere in the world. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and it's critical to know that Cal Chamberlain, who was the originator, the inventor, that he's passed away a couple of years ago, but this all originated 30 years ago. He was the brain behind this, a revolutionary. He was stuck in Atlanta traffic by himself in a single occupant vehicle. There was a high occupancy vehicle lane and a rapid transit bus lane, both underutilized, but he was in gridlock traffic 30 years ago. Today, you're still stuck in that gridlock traffic in Atlanta. Hasn't changed a bit. So we've got to create some differences. But to this point, the goal is always to drive this down to the local economy, to create jobs, create those opportunities. And we don't oversell what we're doing. We're creating an alternative to help alleviate the problem. And all the research shows that in the future, we have a picture. It's a diagram that we've done. Everybody's gone underground. So we've done our subways, and we've got the boring hole. There's another one. Hyperloop is another one. But you're not going to build a Hyperloop under Dubai Harbor. Well, maybe you will, but it's going to be costly. Some of those are options, but they're not going to be everywhere. And then we're on, as they say, terra firma. We have autonomous vehicles. We're doing everything we can with electric vehicles and batteries and hybrids and micro scooters. We're doing all that. We're doing everything we can. Bikes and the electric rickshaws are going to come out soon. And if you haven't, I'm going to get somebody on that. But then all of a sudden, we just jumped to 1,500 to 5,000 feet. Now we're flying cars everywhere. And I have to joke because we love flying. We love trains. We love cars. We love flying cars. We love them all. But the number, you'd have to have 20,000 flying cars to impact traffic congestion. And it have to be following the same highway route to alleviate the people that are trying to get to work or trying to get to an airport. So now they have vertiports. And that's great, but it's not going to have this impact on people getting from point A to point B, going to work, going to hospitals and services. And this is this little piece of the future of mobility that the Praters, that the McKinseys, that the World Bank Group, that all of these groups are talking about. We're just another layer. We don't oversell it. We just say, just this little part. This is what we're doing. But the importance is, and Cal always used to say it, if we drive down the street, people are at bus stops. They don't have to do that. See, SNAAP is an on-demand, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it was so funny. $1 to climb in, 25 cents a mile. Said, how do you do that? Because all of the research said it should be on, in the United States, AAA, cost of vehicle ownership, and less than the IRS would charge us for the reimbursement for vehicle mileage. So again, we can convert that at whatever prices around the world, but then you add the solar and the net solar production and a lot of the other pieces and components to our system, it gets very exciting. So that's a long explanation, but any municipality in the world can just start picking the parts that would make sense for them. And it's a very exciting time. Any smart city, there's smart cities, there's sustainable cities, the C40 cities, innumerable options. So we're just at a very exciting time.
I really appreciate that you don't oversell it and say that it's a piece of the puzzle, not the whole solution in and of itself. I would also like to clarify something which is curious for me. Do you have any estimate how much it can alleviate? So from previous research or trial projects, what are the biggest destinations which would it connect, and how much it can alleviate of the traffic congestion on the road?
I've mentioned a few, and they're not the logical ones. Somebody would say New York City. That's not the first place. Let me say that there's some less obvious places. I live in Tampa, Florida, and it would be a great place. And I'd probably say that just because I live here and I love Tampa. But let me just call off some private sector examples, because everybody talks about the public, and certainly we go through the rigor of development. So all of the same standards of development we have in the US certainly would follow the same international standards. But let me begin by saying transportation hubs. So whether that's an airport, a vertiport, a train, any of those areas that are expansive areas that people are arriving or leaving, and large parking lots, or rather large areas where you park and the first thing you get out of your car and you go, okay, how about a sports or entertainment venue? You see the football stadium, soccer stadium, depending on your sport of choice and country of origin. I just probably offended my soccer fans, my football fans, depending on where you are, my good friends. But you look, and it's half of it is just the walk. If you have your steps, you're going to get them all walking to the stadium. So you have that, but sports and entertainment venues. But then you look at large manufacturing facilities that are just massive locations. Pick the vehicle manufacturing plant. I don't care if it's German or Japanese or wherever. These are massive facilities. Some people have to show up an hour before time to log in for work, to park their car, to walk to the office to log in. You set up a system, and it's a constant circulator. Time in, you're on your way, done. You got happy employees. Shopping malls, convention centers, circulator buses. I have not met anybody that likes buses. Were good, and we don't say don't do them. And if you're going to do them, make it electric, but add another layer. And I would say to that point, certainly the Middle East has got some incredibly gorgeous malls. Certainly, I was in Dubai recently. Utterly the most beautiful work. RTA is just an extraordinary organization. And to that end, we would certainly just be another layer in all of their great work. And the malls that they're building, another opportunity there. College university campuses, medical facilities, rehabilitation facilities, commercial and residential developments, as you continue to see cities expand out, sustainable cities, smart cities, as I've mentioned, C40 cities, and so forth. So the initial one is not always to this urban center. However, we would welcome the opportunity for early designs to be some of that razor look. There's a certain location in Miami that I stood there and I looked and I said, could we get through there? And you'd have to look at that and say, maybe we could. Maybe we only need about 12 feet wide. So you get the idea. Lots of places. So I would say I would relish the chance to have SNAAP Transportation at Dubai Harbor. Be a perfect opportunity. There's some incredible places here in Tampa. We're in a discussion with a group in Sao Paulo, Brazil. There's an incredible opportunity for Cancun. They're building a bridge to the island, but they have the same problem is it's a difficult area, and we could certainly solve some problems there. Those are just 3-4 examples. I could pick a million. Berlin, incredible group. But we're just this, I don't want to say the belle of the ball, a curious thing, but it's just really great facet to the work that's being done in the future of mobility.
What is needed for the ribbon to be established? You mentioned various places, and it would be very informative for the audience to know what would take to establish the ribbon and thus SNAAP Transportation.
Collective willingness. What we have found that's really it. It's something that I made a decision early on as heading up the company. We're just not going to fight anybody. There's enough challenges in the world. It's this attraction rather than promotion. When we announced that we had a functioning prototype in September of last year, we had remained quiet for just a little over 4 years. We didn't tell anybody because we felt it was far more important to get it right and get it working than put out a lot of announcements and flares. And we received a number of calls and emails of people telling us what to do. First of all, you need to have 4 people and you need to go up to 20. We said, no, really, we don't, because first, there's other people that do that. Second, it requires fundamentally different engineering. And third, the regulatory requirement. Anyhow, so that was that. And then the other ones where you need a perfect PR firm and you need to have all this. No, that's not us. We're a very conservative group. And so those are the things that we didn't want to do. And then we were asked to have a conversation, and I will not name the city. And we were told, this is what we will do. And I said, no, that's not what we do. We share with you who we are. We define ourselves. And if we can help you, great. But we're not going to start an argument with anybody. If you think we can work with you, super, then let's work. Let's do the good work. But if everybody wants to put up flares and flags and red and if you raise a challenge, then come with the fastest ways to solve that challenge. If you're not done, there's a lot of places that are far more ready to solve than they are to raise the problem. And as I said, we don't advertise, we don't do anything, and it's busy every morning.
That's a really admirable approach, that you do this kind of solution. If something else is needed, then someone else can provide that. My question was more about the physical environment. What is needed for the ribbon to be established? Whether temperature, sand, or water. Is there anything which would?
Local environment. So that was more human environment. So thank you. Kristen Corville, President and Chief Operating Officer, my partner, and Cal Chamberlain's daughter. I will say she's very much is a purist, and actually you hear her speak and you can hear her dad talking. It's incredible. It's just such an important part of the fabric of the company. And by the way, Cal Chamberlain's wife, Corrine Chamberlain, is the chairman of the company. And so to every listener, we are a woman-owned and woman-led company. I just am fortunate to be the CEO. They let me work every day, and I'm thankful for that. To the environment, Kristen will always say that we meet the environment as it is. And so while we are a solar powered company, the battery powered, solar charged, all those dependencies are going to really be relevant to wherever we're asked to have a partnership to establish an installation. We have some of the early designs and videos of how those would be installed, the different types of footings that would be in the ground or onto the ground, different ways that would happen. And really, that's where the locality will say, here's our A and here's our B. And then we listen and share and show, because we have different, what we call portals and docks and offsets. We have our 4 different pods. The software becomes not relevant. It was, as they say, in the cloud. And so it's really that dialogue of, where's your A to B? And sometimes it is as simple as the airport to the downtown, and it's just along the highway or the road. It's not complicated. If you thought about telephone poles, and yep, that's the route. But sometimes here in Tampa, we have a lot of waterways. And are you following a particular path, but you have to have all the regular engineering requirements? So that's going to really depend what's the distance between your standards and normal things. But certainly we've been excited with the development so far, the structural testing that has been completed. We are always iterative in our processes. We're going through the next round, and our pod is coming back to our test and demonstration site in 3 weeks. Going to be shinier than it was the last time I was in it. And I just want to make one comment about it, and if you have more questions, certainly. But we've had the same dedicated core team for the last 5 years. And that is probably speaks volumes of Cal Chamberlain, our visionary and inventor and co-founder, but certainly the people that lashed onto this. It's just been incredible to now where we say, as Kristen and I would always say the same thing, it's real. We see the design, but no, it's really real, because we just make the pod or we make the sketch or the next thing. But we were talking with one of the people that we hired the other day, and I said, I sat in it and they moved me in the pod and it closed, and I went into the offset onto the Ribbonway. And when the pod closed, I went on the Ribbonway. There was a drone staring right at me. I was just a surreal moment. I was like, geez. And we all kind of wish Cal was around for that, but Cary's around, and his brother is part of the team. So there's a lot of SNAAP Transportation Museum, things like that. There's a lot of story to this. We know that the time will come where we can put more out, but our subject line is heads down, focused on delivery. And that's what the team has been about.
And then let's unpack this journey a bit, because your love for this project is very apparent and your enthusiasm just radiates through your answers. So what has been your journey towards SNAAP Transportation, and why are you working in this area?
Kristen Corville, as I've mentioned, she and I have known each other for a number of years, and it's amazing. We knew each other from prior work experiences. And as you read in my introduction, I've been an educator and a nonprofit executive and a business leader and a strategist for quite a long time. And while she and I will differ on how we came back together, suffice that she said that I had invited her to work in one of my companies because she's so good. I'll just say that she's the kind of person that I would work with or for anytime. And so while we differ in that regard, she said she was working on a project with her father. And I said, oh, well, what is that? And she said, it's around transportation. I said, cool, great. And then she said, it's around personal rapid transit. I said, oh, how cool is that? And she says, you know what that is? And I said, yeah. Now, the other thing I always say is that I'm the son of an English teacher and librarian, so I read a lot. And so she introduced me to her father and Kurt, the brother, who are now always together. And then over a number of months, talked and befriended each other. And he was always known as Crazy Cal in the garage. So it was a good 23, 25 years that Cal had been, as a solution engineer, had been tooling away. And I finally came to this conclusion that no one was really doing this, not what Cal was doing, not this multiple layers. And so it became this kind of, pardon the expression, collision of technology, batteries, solar, software, social readiness, this design. And I'm a go-to-market. I have this particular divining rod, and we stood the company up in 2000 to push a reset button, but 2020 and assembled a group of people, and that was that. So just a full combination of factors brought it together. And as I said, we've had a group of people. We brought in some incredible experts along the way. I will say our chief engineer is one of the most extraordinary people. I'll just say some of the pictures from outer space were specifically brought to you by him. And we just incredible. So we're creating a video right now. It's a 30-second video, and it's called SNAAP Transportation's Frontline Innovators and Inventors. And it's not me. It's the Byrons and the Austins and the Rogers and the Kurtz and the Ivies and all the people that are sometimes in a cold warehouse or sometimes on the cold grass and steel in the field. They're the real ones. Brett, Leo, I'm sure I'm going to miss one of them, can catch hell for, excuse me, but you get the edge. They're the best. Like I said, they let me work here.
Again, your love for the company and the people is just amazing, and it really shines through. So that's a really good message that you are working together towards this kind of transport solution, and you are doing this collaboration in your own company, which you were talking about for smart cities across the stakeholders. What do you see the biggest challenges are for SNAAP Transportation?
I think the biggest one is we're starting to get over this now. And I think a lot of it has got to do with the fact that we have the word transportation in our name is probably the single biggest one. And because people say transportation, capital cost, infrastructure. And when you see one of our videos that we created, when we say that we can build this in weeks and months and for maybe $8 million a mile, most of the people just walk out of the room. They won't even pay attention. And so that's very dissonant. And the second part, because as a company, and we are certainly doing a funding round now, there's just a lot of dissonance to it. And so when we have that dialogue, it's a lot of education. But we have now, and I would say since September of last year, so it probably hasn't been 8 months, there's been a lot of teaching, and then there's been a lot of learning, and it has worked. So thank you to you guys as well. People understand that if you throw out conventional wisdom about transportation and infrastructure as it relates to us, that we don't need new road construction, we don't need traditional infrastructure, and that we can build this in weeks and months, and that this is an erector set meets a train track, or this is Mr. Jetson meets an amusement park monorail, and you start thinking innovation, because if you don't think innovation, then we're not in the same game. But if you want to be painted into a corner and say everybody that goes to the airport goes in mass groups at all the same time, and therefore you have to build a multi-billion-dollar structure, then you will continue to do that. But we will be somewhere else solving the smaller problems. And again, it's the future of mobility.
And I just love that you shifted from the challenges immediately to the opportunities. So what are the other biggest opportunities you can see?
There's a lot of problems that we're here to solve. What are the challenges, the opportunities? They're the same. We've created something that is sustainable. Cities need an option. And so we've just been able to create something that's, I don't want to be religious. I won't be religious, but there's something peculiar about what we're doing. It's solar. If you look at when we were at the Expand North conference, and I wish I had the doctor's name, the work that's being done in battery design now is crazy. In 3 years, they'll be able to do it they'll be paper thin layers. Can you imagine that our pod would be that much lighter? The cost of manufacturing, that much, 60% less cost of manufacturing. The weight of our system would be that much lighter. But there will be enough money to be made. That's not even an issue. The ability to have job creation, access to employment, access to services. And we use the example in the United States. There are people that will not go for medical and social services because they're afraid of the bus or the taxi or the Uber because they don't know that's a stranger. And that is common. Now imagine they could just get from their house to a SNAAP pod, and the SNAAP pod will drop them off in front of a hospital. Now, somebody say that can happen already. Not really. And COVID changed a lot for everybody too. So we're just one more layer. We're not going to overdo this. But then imagine you're on this little campus and how big that thing is. Wait a minute, I'm on the front of it, but the building's all the way over there. Another one. We do have about a million stories. There's so many opportunities. And the fact that there were some tough times, but the fact that we're this far along and we can see right now we're waiting for, we've got about 9 now. We got 5 of the 9, but it's so inexpensive to build. We're ready. We're getting ready.
And is there a particular project you are proud of and would like to share your learnings from?
Everything. Everything's been learning. I will say we've been having team calls every week for the last 5 years. I'll just talk about Byron today because I could talk about every team member. And some of them are so humble, it's something, but I won't elaborate much. But Byron simply said that he finally had, the reason he had time is because he has been in charge of the shuttle, and that is the base of the pod. So if you look at that picture right there, it's the lower component of that. He shipped the lower component to our lead engineer last week. So when it's not with him, he has time to do other things. And so on today's call, of course, Christian says, so Byron, you've had some spare time. And that was first to sleep because he has a day job. And then we all do this in our spare time. But today Byron said, yeah, I slept and I'm actually sleeping better. And then he just leaned forward and we're like, what is it, Byron? He says, I've been researching. And we're all just, tell us. So this video that I had mentioned is all about these inventors and innovators. And we want this to be scalable. That's essential. And so they all know that. So everybody knows it's got to be scalable. But he was talking about something particular today that had us all kind of leaning in, and it was a new thing. And so that was just one more example that 5 years later, they've still got that synapse is just still firing away. Just got to give him a little break, but this is still a pretty sharp guy.
And please keep up this good work with the team because we need more solutions. We need more pieces to the puzzle of the urban mobility and transit systems. Andrew, you have been very generous with your time and answers. Do you have any closing comments or requests for the audience?
First of all, thank you so much to Corey, certainly, and Smart Cities Council. I will say that SNAAP Transportation is one of the many solutions that are out there to help the future of mobility. We certainly are avid readers. We study what others are doing. We learn what to do. We certainly learn what not to do. We have open ears and open arms to receive partnerships, to receive dialogue from anybody, to let everybody know that we have last year, it was a very quiet year up until September when we were at Move America, when we were named one of the top mobility startups in the United States. Certainly to Corey and the invitation to join Smart Cities Council at the kickoff for MENA, and then attended a number of events there. This year, we will be at the Smart Cities Expo USA in New York. We'll be at the Smart Cities Summit in San Francisco. It looks like we'll be at the AIM Congress in Abu Dhabi. We'll be then at the Mobility Live in Dubai in June. And then we have a number of events throughout the balance of the year. But at any time, people that want to reach us can either find us at Instagram at snaap.transportation, or they can email at info@ridesnap with 2 A's, ridesnap.com, and they can always reach us. So, of course, also through the Smart Cities Council.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Of course, thank you.
If you want to learn more about Andrew, links will be provided in the show notes, and the Smart Cities Council website can inform you even more. What have you learned from this interview? What questions do you have after listening to Andrew? What would you like to know more about? Let us know on the Smart Cities Council website or on LinkedIn. Look out for other episodes and topical discussions, and thanks for tuning in.